We now head to the great state of Texas for the story of an unexplained phenomenon which occurred in, of all places, a suburban kitchen. March 2017. Erica Garner is home alone in her house just outside Houston. Her husband has left for a business trip.
I was outside, I was playing with my two dogs, and I noticed something very strange on my rooftop. There was black birds going in a circle. I had never seen that before.
This feels like some sort of omen as Erica goes back inside. She's giving water to her dogs when suddenly...
Oh! What was that?
Let's freeze on that, because if you blink, you'll miss it. A strange blue light streaking through the room, leaving Erica stunned and momentarily at a loss for words.
That's weird.
It was almost like plasma. Everything in the room turned completely white, almost like an explosion, and my eyes started burning.
Okay, it's really weird.
Even stranger, the flash only lasts a second, though Erica says it felt much longer.
What was that?
It traveled almost like it was a train coming across the room, slowly coming in for a stop. And this happened for all about 7 seconds.
And that night, things get downright funky.
I had trouble sleeping, I was having some strange dreams, and it definitely impacted me.
Erica's dreams of pink and purple galaxies make her feel like she's been transported through time. And she wonders if the blue flash could have been an extraterrestrial force.
Into my research, trying to figure out what possibly a blue beam of light could come from, people have said they've experienced alien abductions and they might see a blue beam of light.
One similar case happened in 1975. An Arizona logger named Travis Walton disappeared after walking toward an unidentified beam of light in the forest. He recalled being transported to a strange place surrounded by alien beings. And when he made it home, he was shocked to learn he'd been gone for 5 days.
There are definitely things in this world that we do not understand.
So what is Erica's blue flash? Well, we know it's not her security camera malfunctioning because we can hear her reacting in real time.
Oh, what was that?
So the first thing we did was a proper analysis of the footage. Photography expert Andrew McCarthy starts by examining the footage frame by frame.
So right after this, the camera lost several frames. You see a distinct jump. Her hair moves, the dogs move. It's just a significant jump. She said it was 7 seconds. I'm not sure if it was 7 seconds, but it was a long time, long enough that they significantly shifted positions.
But McCarthy says there's something else that's even stranger.
What didn't make sense to me is nothing here is casting a shadow. It seems like the light source would be coming behind the camera to cause this, but you would see some kind of shadow cast on the legs of these chairs, you know, on the dogs. But you don't see any of that. It's just bright, and it's uniformly bright.
Forensic investigator Chase Klotsky is curious if the flash could be something as simple as a burnt-out light bulb. So she asks the Garners to run a test.
Erica and her husband put this light bulb in, and they tapped it. And if you tap it long enough, it burned out. Once you compare when the light bulb blows out and that reaction, and you put it next to the blue flash, they're not even close.
Okay, so if it wasn't a blown bulb, was it possibly a strike of lightning from outside? Atmospheric scientist Deanna Hentz reviews the local weather radar from that day.
What you're seeing is that a round of fairly intense thunderstorms went through the Houston area, but it was about 1 o'clock in the morning, whereas this video was taken at 11:30 in the morning. That really leads me to think that lightning is not responsible for that flash.
Some experts believe wormholes in the universe create paths to move backwards in time and through parallel universes. Perhaps the blue flash was one such path.
I stand more on the side of this being a time glitch. It's an error in our time-space fabric.
What was that?
So what is it? The strange jump in the footage does point to some kind of time glitch, but whether it's caused by an alien force, a wormhole, or something else is unclear. So for now, I'm prepared to call this a genuine unexplained phenomenon. We take you back to 1971, the village of Belmez in Andalusia, Spain. Local resident Maria Gomez Camara discovers a strange discoloration on her concrete kitchen floor.
Oddly, after a few days, it changes and forms what appears to be a face. She tries to scrub it away to no avail, so her husband then tears up the floor and re-cements it. But a week later, the face reappears in the floor, followed by several more.
A number of times they've taken up the floor, they've tried to get rid of them, but the faces just keep coming back.
Word quickly spreads about the phenomenon in Belmez.
There's been a number of investigations and attempts at analysis of the site, and none of them have come up with any evidence of paint or tampering that would lead to a concrete explanation for the existence of the faces.
Even stranger, while researchers were examining the site, a number of long-expired human remains were found buried underneath the house, unbeknownst to the family.
I was able to verify that there was a late 1800 cemetery in that location. It likely was a Catholic cemetery that was long forgotten, and when they needed room to build homes, they just went ahead and built a home over it without realizing that the headstones had been removed.
A lot of the people that visited the Belmez faces thought that the bodies or the spirits or the souls beneath the home were showing themselves through these faces in the floor.
The family has always insisted this was not a hoax. They weren't hand-drawing the faces on their own floor. And though the mother Maria died in 2004, the image continues to draw visitors to the house to this day. But what are they really looking at? Our experts face off.
First, perhaps this could all have been another example of pareidolia, the tendency of humans to see familiar shapes within randomly occurring patterns. But Andrew McCarthy isn't so sure.
Some say that these images could be an accident. Maybe they simply spilled something on the floor which stained it and it resembled a face. Then why does the face keep reappearing time and time again? That seems to rule out a coincidence.
Catholic miracle researcher Michael O'Neill says that while this resembles some confirmed miracles, it can't be classified as such.
There's a case in the 1700s in Austria called Our Lady of Absam. Began to manifest the face of the Virgin Mary. The glass was wiped clean with acid, and the image came back, according to the investigator. And as a result, they declared it to be miraculous. We don't have the same situation now. We don't see in real time the image returning, so it cannot be established as miraculous.
A chemical engineering firm in Spain that analyzed the Belmez faces in 2014 told us their tests using infrared scanning and electron microscopes did not find any traces of inorganic materials like paint where the images appeared. But Mick West thinks it's very possible the faces weren't painted on, but instead created with another technique.
It seems almost like they're removing areas rather than adding to the areas. It's very dark around the outside of the face and then it's white in the middle. So it could just simply be that they added something like bleach, but then would eventually evaporate and you wouldn't really see any residue of that.
Mick makes an interesting case for bleach, but the most recent testing did not detect bleach or paint. So our verdict, these strange faces remain an unexplained phenomenon until we get more concrete proof.
In November 2017, just as people are clamoring to get their hands on the latest iPhone, the internet is sent into a frenzy, not by some viral dance craze, but by a 19th century Austrian painting. A photo of the expected one by artist Ferdinand Georg Waldmüller starts getting a lot of attention on Twitter.
A lot of people online point out that in her hands there is something very strange and definitely out of place. It looks to be like she's checking her Instagram or TikTok on a smartphone.
Keep in mind, this picture was painted in 1860. The girl's pose is unmistakably that of a distracted pedestrian from today, staring at a handheld device. People online immediately speculated this could be evidence someone in the future invented the ability to travel back centuries and brought back a sample of advanced technology. This is also not the first historic painting where 21st century technology was spotted. This 1937 mural by Umberto Romano seems to show a Native American staring into his own smartphone. And this depiction of God and Jesus in an Italian church fresco from the 1600s had people seeing something else from the heavens.
A lot of people online claim that this image of the Earth with these antennae strongly resembles the Sputnik satellite launched by the Soviet Union in the late 1950s.
But how would late Renaissance painter Ventura Salimbeni know what our early satellite technology looked like? Could he have been a visionary genius like Leonardo da Vinci, who prefigured the airplane with this device called the ornithopter? Or did someone from the future really go back in time?
We now know Michelangelo secretly painted anatomically accurate images of the human brain on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. So painters can sneak secret images into their work. But an artist hiding evidence of future time travelers would be even more mind-blowing. So is that what we're seeing here? Our experts enlighten us.
First, we asked physicist Dr. Hakeem Oluseyi if time travel is even theoretically possible.
The laws of physics do allow for time travel under certain situations. One of them is when you have a wormhole. If you move around one end of the wormhole at near the speed of light, someone could actually exit the wormhole before they entered it, meaning they went backwards in time.
So it's theoretically possible, but is it probable? We showed the paintings to Mick West. He says these modern-looking objects don't quite add up to clear proof some later generations solved the time travel equation.
If time travelers were coming from 1,000 years in the future, they would bring things from their time. I don't think they would stop off in the early 21st century and pick something up and then go back to the 18th century.
So it seems likely the smartphones are being mistaken for something else. But what?
For the lady that's walking in the meadow, it was very common to have these little books that were devotions or just little religious scriptures. We have those little hymnals in museums that are about roughly the same size that date from that same period.
And as for the Sputnik satellite,
between the Christ figure and God is this huge sphere, which is called a creation globe. The antennae are actually scepters that God and Christ are holding. The Renaissance artist was trying to envision this whole idea of creation with his artistic license.
Clearly, a lot of internet users jump to the same wrong conclusion, and there's a good reason for that.
When our children and grandchildren look back on the artwork that we've done, they may be scratching their heads and wondering, what is that object he's holding in his hand?
So by the time our descendants look at artwork from today, technology will have moved on, and they may similarly confuse certain objects for newer technology that has since emerged.
Our verdict? A collective case of misidentification. We can't rule out that somebody in the future has unlocked the secret of traveling to the past, since even scientists of today say space and time are not absolutes. But these paintings are not proof of that being the case.
It's 2010 near Lake Natron in northern Tanzania. A British photographer travels to the lake with camera in hand and is instantly taken aback by what he encounters. From his photos, you might think that these are pieces of artwork, maybe even wicker creations. But these are real animals, seemingly petrified in place. A frozen flamingo floats on the water while a stock-still songbird perches on a branch. Author Heidi Halle says these photos are so chilling that they became an internet sensation.
It seemed like they were frozen in mid-motion of living their lives, so it was really just disturbing and really heartbreaking to see.
The animals in these photographs definitely look like they could have encountered the ancient Greek monster Medusa, who turned all who gazed upon her to stone. But there's another theory that hits a bit closer to home.
In that area, there is the legend of Papa Bawa, which is a bat-like demonic creature that would come and paralyze people in their sleep. And there are many who are suspicious that Papa Bawa is responsible for killing the animals here at Lake Natron.
There's also a more natural theory about what brought these animals down. Some say the red color of the lake seen in some footage is evidence of toxic algae that is killing the creatures.
What's most curious about Lake Natron is that it doesn't appear to be deadly to all animals. In fact, 75% of the world's population of lesser flamingos live in its lagoon. So who or what happened to these unlucky animals that seemingly froze them in place? Could it be the legendary Popo Bawa after all? We turn to our experts to investigate.
Science writer Amy Teitel considers the famous legend of Popo Bawa
According to legend, Popobawa only attack humans with the goal of inspiring fear spreading throughout humanity. So for this demon to hypothetically attack an animal is not how this myth goes.
So let's rule out these mythological beings. Could there be a real-life predator that's causing these animals to freeze at the moment of death? Wildlife biologist Dr. Stephanie Shuttler looks into this theory.
There are animals that can essentially freeze their prey by paralyzing them. Snakes do this with venom. It breaks down different parts of the prey's body and they can't move. And there's the brown recluse spider. When it bites you, it breaks down tissue. But spiders and snakes, they consume the prey that they kill. So it's really strange that we see the bodies of these animals largely intact.
So if it's not a predator, could toxic red algae have killed these creatures? Biologist Dr. Floyd Hayes investigates.
Red tides occur in areas that are rich in nutrients. They're caused by dinoflagellate algae, which produce toxins and can kill organisms, but organisms killed during red tides are not preserved like this. In fact, they quickly disintegrate.
Yet NASA geologist Dr. Bob Anderson thinks the algal blooms may provide a clue.
This is a lake that's associated with volcanism. When you have these nearby volcanoes, a lot of times they have these toxic type of gases in there. These algae are feeding off of the nutrients that are coming from the volcano.
So toxins from volcanic gases or algal blooms may be what's causing these deaths. But then why aren't the animal remains decomposing?
There are a number of lakes that have high concentrations of natron in them that have formed when large amounts of volcanic ash cover the lake, and as the water evaporates, the sodium bicarbonate becomes concentrated. The lake is extremely alkaline. It has a pH of about 9 to 10.5.
And Anderson says it's this high alkalinity that solves the mystery.
This animal looks like he's been exposed to this alkaline type of area. Somehow they get covered up quickly from the water. They're in the muds, and these muds are also very alkaline. And so they actually act as a coating, and they mummify the thing.
Anderson says what the animal's body goes through is also similar to petrification, which turns organic material into fossils.
What happens in this process is that water goes through, and as water's carrying minerals, they take out an organic mineral and replace it with a mineral like quartz or something that's very hard.
Our verdict? So this is really pretty cool. It turns out these animals are not actually petrified, they're mummified. The high alkalinity in the lake from sodium bicarbonate is what causes this process. But that still doesn't explain why the creatures are perfectly frozen in place. Well, we caught up with a photographer and he admits he found them on shore and then posed them like this to achieve that haunting look in his photos.
It's late September 2019 in the coastal town of Weston-super-Mare in England. One morning, a local woman wakes up bewildered at what's taking place in her bedroom. She grabs her phone and starts recording.
I'm in my bedroom and I'm looking at the wall. What is this sorcery that is happening?
The woman holds up her hand in front of the wall in a state of utter shock. The image is blurry, but you can clearly see her pan the camera as a red car drives past a block of buildings.
I am confused at how this is happening.
It appears a row of white houses is being projected onto her bedroom wall. They look like perfectly normal residential buildings, except for one thing. They are all upside down. Journalist Amy Teitel wonders if it's all an illusion.
What's really interesting is her curtains are pretty much completely closed. So it could just be a trick of the light.
When the video gets posted and goes viral, some suggest the buildings are not of our world, but a nearly identical one, a glimpse into another dimension. Is such a portal even possible? Consider that other dimensions might exist, according to something called string theory.
String theory is a theory whereas instead of having atoms as kind of the base layer that creates everything, that everything in the universe is created by one-dimensional strings.
These one-dimensional strings, or filaments of energy, are the smallest objects in the universe, and they're said to vibrate in different patterns.
And these strings can vibrate against each other and create multiple dimensions.
Now, string theory tells us there could be up to 10 or 11 dimensions. So has this woman discovered something big? Or is it just another example of other freaky physics? Our experts untangle what's going on.
We have a scene from another universe right in someone's bedroom. How is that possible?
Theoretical physicist Michio Kaku says something kind of like this is possible theoretically with a wormhole, where two black holes in different universes connect, establishing a doorway between them. But the proof wouldn't look like this.
Now, of course, if a black hole or wormhole were to open up in somebody's bedroom, the energy is so great that anyone's bedroom would be sucked inside, never to be seen again.
If it's not a bedroom black hole, maybe there's a projector hidden in the room. Video analyst Mick West takes a look.
These images are a bit blurry. I think if someone was trying to fake some kind of alternate reality, they would have used a clearer image. We can see that it is actually a projection because she waves her hand and leaves a shadow, so it's not actually something that's added to the video afterwards.
So it's not CGI, but could it be a bit of movie magic coming from an electronic projector? That doesn't explain why the image appears upside down. And West says it doesn't match what he sees from the woman's shadow.
The projector would have to be behind her for her to cast a shadow on the wall. And what's behind her from that perspective is the window. So the projector would have to be basically where the window is.
In the clip, we don't see a projector, but we do see tiny gaps in the curtain.
There's just this one small, thin rectangle, a hole, an aperture. And because this is the only way that light can get in, it's acting as what's called a pinhole camera. The term we use for that is camera obscura.
As light rays hit an object and then travel through the aperture of a pinhole camera, they project the image of an object upside down. This creates the camera obscura effect. And just to prove it conclusively, West has been able to recreate it.
I took this plastic sheet here, and I put it over the window, and it has this little hole in here. And then when I turned the camera around, I could see that there was a projection of my backyard onto the back wall of my garage. And like in the video we saw, I can cast a shadow on it. And here's an image of me walking around, waving this umbrella around, projected onto the back wall of my garage.
Our verdict? This is an example of camera obscura from a pinhole camera accidentally made by the window shade. The buildings we see in the image are actually the neighbors' houses from right across the street. We might not have traveled to a new universe, but we got a good lesson in the science of optics. You passed. Class dismissed.
December 2019. It's just after Christmas in the small community of Porter, north of Houston, Texas. A man is heading out alone on what seems like a normal Lone Star evening. But his doorbell is about to catch something extraordinary. The motion sensor records the man as he exits the front door and strolls casually down the walkway. But as he turns towards the driveway, he freezes momentarily and suddenly vanishes. Watch that again. And pay close attention to the ball of light that shoots up to the sky as he disappears. Did we just see an act of teleportation? Journalist MJ Banias, who reports on the unexplained, says it wouldn't be the first reported case.
Cultures and religions have been talking about the ability to travel great distances in a short period of time for generations. In Jewish Kabbalah, rabbis and ascetics could pray and meditate and enter a holy state where they would be able to perform a sort of teleportation act.
Let's teleport back from ancient Israel to modern Georgia. And this internet classic, a high-speed pursuit shot from a police dash cam in 1997.
Police officer is hot on the tail of someone who stole a car and is trying to chase him down. After a bunch of maneuvers on the road, in some bizarre twist, the car thief takes a left turn and disappears through a fence.
Lieutenant Wayne Daniels was at the wheel during this perplexing event.
When it all occurred, it happened so fast. I figured the fence would wrap him up, he'd be in a big old cocoon, but yet the fence was still standing in front of me and keeping me closed off from getting inside the yard. I had no idea to begin with how a car could get through a 10-foot chain link fence.
And just recently, we've seen headlines reporting that teleportation is now a matter of science, at least on the subatomic level.
So the idea has been around since Einstein. We've known that it's possible to teleport at least photons. And even more recently, scientists have been able to use quantum entanglement to teleport larger structures.
Now, based on some physics calculations, it's thought it would require the energy an entire city uses for a year to teleport a human being. But that hasn't stopped people from believing that advanced teleportation tech exists in secret. So do these videos prove it? Let's turn to our experts.
First, Michael Primo examines the doorbell video.
So I've analyzed many Ring camera video recordings, but one thing that they all have in common is that they use a high level of what's called visual compression. So I employed what's called macro block analysis as well as motion vector analysis. These tests reveal that the encoder was not documenting new pixel information for 30 frames. It is entirely possible that this is encoder error. So there's several different reasons as to why this occurred at this specific point in time. The first is there was a drop in the internet connection to which the camera was not transmitting information to the cloud to actually document those frames. The second is simply camera malfunction.
So the glitching doorbell didn't capture teleportation in the act. But how did that car in the police video seemingly teleport to the other side of the fence? After some investigation, Lieutenant Daniels believes he solved the puzzle.
On most fence, when you set the poles, you put the fence on the outside of the poles so that it protects anyone from going through the fence into a yard. This particular fence was set on the back side of the post so that when the car hit the fence, the aluminum ties that hold the fence to the poles popped loose. The fence swung open like a garage door, and before the dust could settle, the fence had done come straight back down in front of me.
So our verdict on both of these videos? The anomaly of the teleporting Texan can be explained by a faulty camera. And the mystery of the vanishing Georgia bandit can be explained by a faulty fence. However, a recent experiment in 2017 by Chinese researchers did manage to teleport the quantum state of a photon to a satellite 870 miles in orbit. Perhaps the days of beam me up, Scotty, could be on the horizon.
It's May 2017, and we're in the lush forest outside Portland, Oregon, where a hiker records a most unusual walk in the woods. Watch that again. The hiker walks through the mirror as though it's an open door, then turns back to see where he came from, and eventually returns back through the mirror. I get it, pretty out there, but if it's an illusion, it's an impressive one, and that's not all.
As he goes through the mirror, you can see that the ivy is on the right side of the tree. But then when he goes back through and he turns around, the ivy is on the left. So it seems like everything has flipped. It's really disorienting.
Now work with us here a minute, because McCarthy points out that modern science is open to the notion of mirror worlds.
There are actually scientists out there who are studying the idea that a mirror universe might actually exist. And they're running experiments using subatomic particles to see if those particles will turn into mirror versions of themselves.
The idea of mirror universes comes from a measurement of neutrons that makes no sense. Neutrons, when taken out of the nucleus of an atom, will decay away.
According to the law of conservation of mass, that can't just happen.
If neutrons are, say, disappearing, then maybe they're disappearing into an alternate parallel universe. Sounds crazy, but this is actual physics that people are testing.
If a parallel universe does exist, has this individual found a portal to it? Before you go running headfirst into your reflection, let's ask our experts to explain.
Our astrophysicist Hakeem Oluseyi says the existence of a mirror universe is theoretically possible, but points out we wouldn't be able to just step into it.
When physicists speak about a mirror parallel universe, they're talking about something similar to what we have, but we don't feel it or interact with it. In this case, the person is still in our universe.
So we need a more prosaic explanation of this footage. And forensic video analyst Mick West thinks he's got one.
So I think what happens here, you get a clue as he gets towards the mirror here. He approaches the mirror at a 45-degree angle, so you can't see his reflection. So I think what happens, and if this was the mirror, you'd come up to the mirror, 45 degrees, you rotate it, come back out again, and turn around. Then you can come back in, do the same thing, come out this way. All you have to do is then cut that video and remove the bits where you turn the camera. It's very, very well done. It's a camera trickery, but it's nicely done camera trickery.
Okay, our verdict. This video was an impressively made hoax. While a mirror universe may still exist, we don't yet have an easy way to visit it. Not through a mirror, and sadly, not through a TV screen either.
May 21st, 2022, Amarillo, Texas. It's around 1:25 a.m. and the zoo's security cameras are keeping their sleepless eyes on its animals when they capture this. A strange figure just outside the zoo's perimeter lurks in the darkness. As we push in, the figure appears to be standing on two legs just on the other side of the fence, looking inside. Shocked by the size of the creature and its rather wolf-like head, the Amarillo Zoo has begun asking the general public for help figuring out what this UAO, unidentified Amarillo object, could be. Take another look. This bipedal creature is quite puzzling. The image goes viral with thousands of people viewing it.
Now let's take a closer look at this image. A lot of folks have said they can discern fur on this thing's arms and pointed ears on its head. On the other hand, some people say it's standing like a human and it looks like it's wearing pants. And they see this as a jacket. As for me, I have no idea.
Field researcher Ken Gerhard cites the figure's resemblance to an infamous creature from folklore.
One of the theories is that it could in fact be a chupacabra, a famous creature that has been talked about throughout Latin American culture since the 1990s and is a blood-sucking type of creature. The name chupacabra actually means goat sucker because it's been alleged that these creatures will drink the blood of goats and other small farm animals. I've examined the remains of several creatures that have been called chupacabras, and all of those animals displayed very dog-like features. Pointy ears, long snouts, strange skin, long fangs, other physical abnormalities.
During a 2-month period in 2010, more than 300 goats were slaughtered in rural Mexico. Ranchers believe these deaths resulted from a chupacabra stalking their livestock. So could this image be a chupacabra stalking the zoo? Our experts investigate.
Professor of biology Floyd Hayes begins by estimating the size of the creature.
To me, it looks like the fence itself may be 12 feet high. The animal looks like it's maybe 6 feet behind the fence, which would make it smaller. It appears to be about half the height of the fence. It's maybe about 7.5 feet tall.
That's much bigger than the alleged size of a chupacabra, and there's another issue.
The chupacabra is allegedly a quadrupedal or four-legged animal, but this appears to be bipedal rather than quadrupedal. Bipedal means it's walking on two legs.
Next, wildlife biologist Stephanie Shuttler examines the creature's hair.
Chupacabras are described as being more hairless with gray and scaly skin. In this image, it seems to be more shaggy. It seems to have long hair, especially on top. So it doesn't fit the description.
And even though sightings of the creature have been reported, Shuttler says the proof has yet to be discovered.
Any evidence of animals that were thought to be chupacabras, it always ended up being a canid species like a coyote, dog, or fox with mange.
Demodectic mange is caused by a parasitic mite that lives in the hair follicles of canines. To rid themselves of the parasites, canines will scratch their fur and skin until it falls off. But the biggest red flag of all, why the zoo only released one image of such a startling discovery?
Camera traps, when they're triggered, they usually take multiple photos. So I would love to see the photos before and after. There's rarely a singular photo of an animal when the cameras are triggered. I suspect this was a publicity stunt by the Amarillo Zoo. If they really wanted to figure out what this animal was, there would definitely be more photos of it.
Now hold on a second. If this is a hoax, then the zoo has been keeping up the deception for months. Our verdict? Unidentified creature. A Seattle-based company specializing in wireless cameras donated 80 color night vision cameras to the Amarillo Zoo after this image went viral. So should this creature reappear, there should be plenty of proof to determine what it is.
In May 2021, Queensland-based Yowie researcher Dean Harrison and his team are testing out infrared cameras at Springbrook National Park. They picked this spot because they believe they've seen traces of Yowie activity among the brush. And that night, they captured this mysterious footage. The thermal imagery seems to show a solitary figure hiding behind or even hugging a large tree trunk.
Now, this is doing what Yowies do. They hug a tree, pretend they're a part of a tree if there's a human in the area, and they just blend. So you can see him just putting his head in.
Minutes later, the image changes. Now it looks like there's a couple.
Two giant creatures emerge from the foliage, and one is bending down to pick up something.
As it bends over, you can also make out what looks like one of the creature's heads. It looks cone-shaped. The figures are large with wide shoulders and ape-like proportions. Field researcher Cliff Barrickman, who has been to Australia to study the Yowie, says the footage aligns with descriptions from indigenous peoples going back centuries.
All of the Aborigines down there have drawings on the walls of caves depicting these things. They're prevalent in their storytelling traditions as well. But then the settlers came in the late 1700s, and they too started running into Yowies, which is another very strong indicator that they're a real biological animal.
Now, Bigfoot-like creatures are part of folklore the world over. Nepal has the Yeti, Mongolia has the Alma. And one theory is that they all descended from a single Asian ancestor, some of whom made it to Australia, while others crossed the Bering Land Bridge, came to North America, and evolved into Bigfoot. If this video is real, it could help prove that theory, but that's a big if.
There's some sort of subject, creature, person, if you will. It's something that's emitting a heat signature. And as we go through different FLIR filter arrays, this object's movement is consistent. There is something happening in here that's moving around.
Look at the footage with this filter. Now the head comes into better view. It appears to have a pronounced sagittal crest, a ridge of bone along the top of the cranium. It's similar to what's seen in the skulls of the early hominid Australopithecus, which some believe to be the common ancestor of Bigfoot, Yowie, and other similar creatures. But Primo is cautious.
Although we have not found any evidence to support that the recording was fabricated, we have no idea what is being depicted here.
Next, our zoologist Roxy Furman analyzes the anatomy of the figures.
What we can see clearly at one point is that there are two animals pictured. It also looks like it's a bipedal animal, which means it walks on two legs.
That might have you thinking primate, but here's a key fact. There are no known primates native to Australia. In fact, the only bipedal animals are the cassowary and the kangaroo, which look nothing like this. So how do we explain the heat signatures in those head shapes? Furman thinks she may have the answer. People wearing headlamps.
That would explain why the head's a slightly strange shape.
That would mean the people were either misidentified or they're participants in an elaborate hoax, maybe Australia's version of the Patterson-Gimlin film, if that was a hoax too. But anthropologist Kathy Strain says that in this case, size does matter. The research team went back to the spot in daylight and measured the tree, matching the thermal footage as best they could to get a sense of the size of the figures in the infrared video.
Whatever it is more than 8 feet tall. The possibility of them being human is highly unlikely. I came to the conclusion that what this video shows are two real Yowie. I think it is one of the most significant films taken in at least 50 years.
So yes, there's a possibility that this is a hoax. But based on Professor Strain's estimate of the creature's height, we're going to say these are possible Yowies.
Havia Iloilo, Philippines. A CCTV security camera rolls on a warm July evening in 2021. The camera captures a dimly lit street where a woman, later identified in the news as Mary Lou, sits in front of her home cleaning dishes. Unbeknownst to Mary Lou, a stranger approaches from behind. Then quickly, and as quietly as she arrives, the woman continues down the street, reaches a tree, then she seemingly folds over, dropping to the ground. The woman begins to crawl on all fours back towards Mary Lou. Terrified, Mary Lou stands up and threatens to throw a bucket of water at her. The woman turns and runs away. Watch again. This moment, some people say she doesn't just bend over, but transforms. A week later, another alleged sighting in the same village captured on a second CCTV camera. This time, the person or creature switches between crawling and hopping. As we push in, we see a woman exiting her home, then jumping back in shock.
It doesn't look like an earthly sort of creature. The legs are bent in weird directions, and there's this long neck right there.
Field researcher Cliff Barrickman says the sightings made local news, with some believing the video captured a famed Filipino creature known as the Aswang.
One of the many stories about Aswangs is that during the day, they're just like people. They're people in your village that you may even know. But after night falls, they shapeshift. They have this proboscis tongue for lapping of blood. They go down on all fours and change their shape and turns their legs around in weird positions. Aswangs are said to be responsible for miscarriages in the community, or really anything bad, like a child dies of some disease. It's kind of the catch-all boogeyman. If you want your kids to behave, it's like, don't go out there, Aswangs are out there.
The Aswang are believed to take the forms of vampires, were-dogs, and witches. It's said they can be warded off by salt, ash, or urine, depending on whom you ask. Is this mythical creature what we're seeing here? We'll need to ask our experts.
Biology professor Floyd Hayes applies what's known as kinematics to the second video, the study of animal locomotion.
This creature appears to be quite flexible in its mode of locomotion. It appears to be hopping and transitioning between being quadrupedal and bipedal, unlike what's been reported for the Aswang.
Next, he turns to the creature's anatomy.
In my opinion, the body proportions are very similar to a human. The hind limbs appear to be much longer than the forelimbs, and the feet are pointing forward.
When we line up these proportions with that of a human, that certainly looks like a match. As for the head
is rather obscure in the image, but it looks as though it actually removes a hat as it exits the video.
Anthropologist Kathy Strain believes some legends are legitimate sightings of real creatures, but she's skeptical of this particular clip.
This could be a hoax because as the creature comes to this tree, it pops up and it looks over to see if this person is coming out of their door. That is more human-like, and because they want to make sure they're seen.
If it's a fake, Strain thinks it might be serving a higher purpose.
Folklore has a place in society to teach certain skill sets or certain beliefs.
Mythology across all cultures serves to reinforce cultural norms, such as the imperative for children to stay inside at night.
They get them home on time, to be generally afraid of strangers.
And indeed, we tracked down the guy who made the second video, and he admitted he staged the stunt after being inspired by the first Mary Lou video. Not for fun, but to help with COVID quarantine compliance during the pandemic.
After I saw that video, I was thinking that it might be an inspiration for me to do the hoax. So I did the video for the community purposes, just to force the children to stay inside of their home because it was in the midst of pandemic. This is actually the mask that I wear on that time.
So that may explain the second video, but what about the first one that inspired it? Is it possible that an actual Aswang is responsible for terrifying Mary Lou in the alley?
When this lady comes back towards her and gets down on all fours, she's behaving like a typical Aswang, according to Filipino folklore. She's now gone into a different state where she's no longer human, and her trying to get closer to her without being seen indicates to me that she meant that lady harm. But you don't have a clear view of what she looked like once she was totally down on the ground. It's kind of dark, she's behind a fence. I'm willing to say that I don't really know what happened there.
So we have a split decision. We know the second clip is a hoax, but we can't say that for certain about the first. Aswangs are traditionally women, and while we don't know this woman's intent or state of mind, we do know she was crawling, and Mary Lou was genuinely frightened. We'll stay on the lookout for any future Aswang sightings.
April 2022. A couple in their 50s holiday in the Scottish Highlands. After waking up early on a Monday morning and heading out with their camera, the couple is taking in the eerie sight of the still waters of Loch Ness when they record this.
What on earth is it?
Take a closer look as we zoom in and sharpen the image. It looks like a creature moving through the water.
So admittedly, this video was hard to make out, but I want to draw your attention to a couple of features that really intrigue us. First of all, it is this wake that leads us to believe that this is actually a creature moving through the water. And then, this hump right here is so consistent with other sightings of the Loch Ness Monster.
Some researchers have called this the most significant footage to come off Loch Ness in the last 20 years. It doesn't seem to have an artificial or staged quality.
Yeah, it's really pushing forward now.
It seems like whatever they're filming is actually there in Loch Ness.
Field researcher Ken Gerhardt says the elusive legendary creature, affectionately known as Nessie, has actually had its fair share of caught-on-camera moments.
The first compelling image of the Loch Ness Monster dates from November of 1933. And then in April of 1934, something known as the surgeon's photo surfaced. It appeared to show a small head, a long neck, and a hump protruding out of Loch Ness, and quickly achieved worldwide fame. Unfortunately, in the 1990s, researchers proved that the surgeon's photo was in fact a hoax.
But the sightings continue to this day. Nessie is often described as an aquatic creature having two humps, which has led to the theory that there is a surviving plesiosaur swimming beneath the surface of the loch.
Plesiosaurs were an archaic marine reptile that lived alongside the dinosaurs up until the end of the Cretaceous period about 65 million years ago. They were about 20 or 30 feet long. They had a very big body with a long neck and a small head, 4 flippers, and a very powerful tail. And in some respects, this does fit some of the eyewitness accounts of Nessie.
But Gerhardt says there's a good reason why many Nessie sightings remain unexplained to this day.
Loch Ness is incredibly deep, up to 754 feet. And what's really problematic in terms of research is that the water is very dark.
Despite those challenges, researchers have managed to collect compelling evidence that something is lurking in the loch.
Dating back to 1954, there have been literally dozens of sonar contacts with large animate objects swimming in Loch Ness, 20 to 30 feet long, usually serpentine in shape. And as recently as this year, there was a sonar contact at a depth of about 500 feet of a large serpentine, unidentified object about 20 to 30 feet long, further adding to the body of evidence that the Loch Ness Monster exists.
Loch Ness holds an estimated 263 billion cubic feet of water, which is more than all the water in all the lakes, rivers, and reservoirs in the whole of England and Wales combined. So could this video be the latest proof that Nessie is somewhere in there? We turn to our experts to find out.
Forensic video expert Michael Primo determines if this video is yet another hoax.
In terms of authenticity, nothing appears to be CGI. The video appears to be consistent and plays consistently. No editing or splicing was detected. Through the media interrogation, digital information analysis, through medics, we were able to confirm the authenticity of this video, and it is genuine.
So if the video is real, what are we looking at? We turn to marine biologist Dr. Shay Conger to break it down.
You can actually see, based on the other objects around it, that not only is this animal moving through the water, it's actually navigating. You can see it turn towards the shoreline. To me, that means it's not something being towed or something stuck in the water. This is actually a really large animal, I think, moving across the surface of Loch Ness.
So could a dinosaur, thought to be extinct for 65 million years, really survive in the frigid, murky waters of Loch Ness?
Plesiosaurs did actually inhabit this area, but plesiosaurs were known to be very large, voracious predators. So there would have to be a lot of food to support a remnant dinosaur. It would be very difficult for an animal like a plesiosaur to obtain enough food, so I can rule out that this is some sort of living dinosaur.
Furthermore, Conger says that in one of the biggest DNA studies of its kind, scientists from New Zealand's Otago University were able to identify the presence of around 3,000 species in the deep, dark waters of Loch Ness.
This 2019 study actually ruled out the idea of some plesiosaur living in Loch Ness because there was no genetic material associated with that was found.
DNA from whales and dolphins was also identified in Loch Ness by the researchers. Conger rules those out, though, because you can't see a dorsal fin in the video. But she does have one guess.
The eDNA study actually showed a lot of eel DNA in Loch Ness, and this brings the possibility that maybe the Loch Ness monster is actually just a large eel being sighted at the surface.
If it is an eel, it's huge, which is fascinating in itself.
There's still a mystery that's going on, and we're not really sure what we're seeing in Loch Ness.
Our verdict, we're going to say this is possibly a gigantic eel, though we can't say for certain what species. Perhaps one that hasn't been discovered yet. But the mystery is far from solved, so we'll keep our eyes peeled for more evidence.
July 2020, Montauk, New York. A young couple is walking on the beach. It's midday, and the two are searching for driftwood on the shore.
They noticed some sort of odd smell in the air. As they got closer, they realized there was a dead animal washed up on the beach. Something that definitely does not look normal.
Take a closer look at the dead, decomposing creature of unknown origin.
Its body is bloated, the skin is all tan from probably floating around in the ocean for a couple days, and can you imagine the stench?
The carcass is highly reminiscent of another famous find nearby, the so-called Montauk Monster.
News headlines were made around the world in July of 2008 when a bizarre creature washed up on the shores of Ditch Plains.
Everyone had a theory about the 2008 photos. Some wondered if the creature was a turtle without its shell. Some speculated it was a pit bull that had been beaten in an underground dogfight, or a dead raccoon whose hair had come out in the ocean. And what was up with that apparent beak? Might this be something unnatural?
Almost immediately, online conspiracy theories began to circulate that this creature was actually from Plum Island, which is the center of a disease research facility maintained by the United States government.
A 1971 New York Times article described the facility as a devil's island for the deadliest animal disease germs known to man, and the debunked conspiracy theory claimed it was the source of Lyme disease. Adding to the mystery, the rotten corpse disappeared before it could be analyzed.
Well, of course people are going to connect the dots. This thing has to be from that thing because I don't know what this is and I don't know what that is, therefore they're probably related.
During the Cold War, Plum Island was the site of a secret biological weapons program targeting livestock. It's currently run by the Department of Homeland Security. So what to make of this recent grisly discovery? The Montauk Monster of 2020? We showed the photos to our experts.
This animal at first glance might seem abnormal.
Marine biologist Dr. Shay Conger considers the Plum Island theory. She says neither of the two Montauk monsters look like mutants.
I can tell that this animal isn't some sort of deformed creature because it has every typical aspect of the skeletal structure of a mammal.
So could it be a sea creature of some kind? Wildlife biologist Lucy Eckersley takes a closer look.
You can see it's got all 4 limbs attached and a thin tail.
That says mammal, and she sees hands, which means it's a land creature.
From what I can see from these pictures, it looks like an animal that walks on all 4s. Maybe it could climb trees as well. It could probably grasp things with its 4 limbs. but it also looks quite stocky and round, so I wouldn't necessarily think it was a fast-moving predator that runs after its prey.
That rules out a canine like a pit bull.
The characteristics that I see here, including the teeth, as well as the body structure, and in particular the small front paws that seem to have very thin, flexible fingers, this is relatively easy to identify as a raccoon.
That's a raccoon? Experts say yes, and the original Montauk monster might have been one too. And that beak? Likely the decomposing bones and cartilage of a snout.
Some of the fur is missing, but most of the muscles are still intact. Many animals, if you take away their fur, look very, very different.
Lucy has a point. Check out this creature. Can you name it? Turns out it's a hairless bear.
And so an animal like a raccoon, if you take away its fluffy tail, it's going to look quite unusual. So I don't blame these people for not being sure what this is.
You know, it never helps matters when the corpses of these animals go missing, fueling talk of conspiracy. But in this case, we can tell a lot from the creature's body structure, teeth, and claws. Our verdict? This is the carcass of a raccoon.
May 2021, Saskatchewan, Canada. Two female security guards are working a 12-hour night shift on a Cree First Nation reserve when they discover they are not alone. The footage shared to TikTok shows a grassy slope beside a parking lot as a robotic voice, a TikTok staple, narrates the user's comment.
When we work night security 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. and we see something coming at us at midnight.
It's difficult to make out, but it appears to be a nearly translucent humanoid figure walking towards the security guards. The figure seems to blend in with the tall grass and has no identifying features. As it gets closer to the car, the camera suddenly turns away and the video cuts out. The footage triggers a frenzy of speculation on TikTok. One of the most popular theories is that the security guards have had an encounter with something called a skinwalker.
In Native American folklore, and specifically in the Navajo traditions, we hear references to beings known as skinwalkers. And these are shamans or practitioners of dark magic that are shapeshifters, that are able to transform from a human into any type of animal. Typically, it's for malevolent reasons.
In fact, in 1878, the hysteria over skinwalkers culminated in the Navajo witch purge, when 40 suspected witches were killed to restore harmony and balance to the tribe.
These skinwalkers are greatly feared by the Navajo. In fact, it is forbidden to mention the name because it is bad luck and will cause doom to those that mention that name.
There may also be a reason why this creature chose these security guards.
There are theories that these skinwalkers are drawn to certain individuals. The premise behind this is to lure unsuspecting victims deep into the wilderness and to cause them harm, or to assimilate them into skinwalkers themselves.
Since October 2020 alone, hundreds of videos with the hashtag Skinwalker have been posted to TikTok, accounting for 39 million views. So could this meteoric rise in Skinwalker videos lead to incontrovertible proof these evil beings exist?
Wildlife biologist Dr. Stephanie Shuttler analyzes the video and doesn't see much to support the skinwalker theory.
It looks like a man walking, but you don't really see any clothing. It seems to be like an all-gray figure. To me, it's strange that if they can make shapes into different animals, they seem very human-like, and it doesn't seem to resemble any animal in this area at all, or even any exotic animals.
And she says there's an even bigger red flag.
I also don't understand why the camera drops down. I understand they're scared, but if they're really interested in getting this, it seems like they would have the camera on the whole time.
Next, we take the video to science writer Mick West, who's fully willing to give it the benefit of the doubt.
It could actually be some kind of cryptid coming out of the foliage toward the car, but because it's such a low resolution video and because it's so highly compressed, we can't do the normal types of analysis that we do to see if there are indications of fakery.
Still, West isn't ready to call this a legitimate skinwalker. Instead, he offers up another theory.
Kind of see a shape suddenly appear out of the foliage, and it's amorphous, and it looks like a figure walking towards the road. If someone wanted to fake this, or someone was trying to scare somebody else, then you could very easily get this effect just by having somebody in a green camouflage suit and just kind of come out of the background. It is possible that there are some kind of strange creatures out there in the desert that we haven't discovered before, but this really isn't very good evidence of it. So I think I'm going to have to go with a guy in the suit.
We're going to go ahead and call these sightings a human, probably using some kind of camouflage like a ghillie suit. So no need to cancel your upcoming camping plans. But keep your eyes and ears open, and if something comes at you, well, we suggest you run away, just in case.
October 2016, Craig McKay of Alaska's Bureau of Land Management is overlooking the Chena River in Fairbanks when he notices something extremely peculiar in the water. It looks to be around 20 to 25 feet long, and when we zoom in, it appears to be swimming against the current.
I looked down and saw this really bizarre object. It was much larger than anything I'd seen in the river, and it was undulating or swinging back and forth in the current. It was really spooky.
Given the location of this discovery, field researcher Ken Gerhardt says we should consider the local folklore.
In Alaska, we do have a number of legends of water creatures. The Inuit culture talks about something called the Tizharuk, which is a long serpentine animal with a long head, a prominent tail fin. There are many tales of the Tizharuk actually snatching people off of bridges or out of canoes and devouring them voraciously.
Gerhardt says descriptions of the Tizharuk vary, but the most terrifying form is said to be a giant eel-like creature with transparent skin, which not only allows observers to see still digesting victims, but also makes the creature less visible when stalking its prey.
In addition, we have the Lake Iliamna monster, which is also known as the Jigignak. This particular monster has been reported several times. It's described as being 10 to 30 feet in length, with a torpedo-shaped body and kind of a dull aluminum color. So, we have to ask the question, could this be related to those stories?
Early stories of the Jig-Ignak described fish-like monsters traveling in groups and attacking canoes. So is that, or one of its descendants, what we're looking at here? Let's let the experts decide.
Marine biologist Dr. Shay Conger says if this thing were a snake, it's unlikely to have accumulated snow on his back. And as for serpents,
There's no water snakes in Alaska. This is because reptiles and amphibians are exotherms. They're reliant on the environment to maintain their body heat, and there really isn't enough heat to allow these species to persist in this area.
So Dr. Conger turns for clues to the hydrology of the scene, the motion of the water.
It seems to kind of be moving back and forth through the water, as you would expect an animal with a tail to be swimming against the current.
But hold on, look again.
When the video zooms out a little bit, you can actually see that this object doesn't seem to be moving forward at all. Rather, it's just fixed in place and being hit by the moving current downriver. Therefore, I conclude this isn't a biological object. Rather, it's some type of debris like a piece of rope or a fishing line encased in ice.
So there you have it. Our verdict, based on Dr. Conger's hydrology analysis, this is a frozen rope. But sightings of Alaskan lake and river monsters continue to this day. Are they all misidentifications? Or is there really something down there? We'll keep looking for more video until we have an answer.
It's November 2017 near the village of Asuka, southeast of Osaka, Japan. Travel vlogger Doug Merritt is filming his trek through the surrounding hills and forest when he arrives at his destination.
I think I see it right in front of me. Wow. It's actually bigger than I expected.
His video shows a gigantic stone structure rising above the dense forest floor on a hillside. There's an indentation down the middle with 2 rectangular holes on either end. Made of solid granite, the carved mound is 36 by 26 feet and stands 15 feet high.
The stone seemed to be out of place there at the top of the hill. It was just sitting there, appearing to have just fallen from the sky out of nowhere.
Mars researcher George Haas says this 800-ton carved boulder is known as Masuda no Iwafune, which means the rock ship of Masuda. Some believe it's tied to a Japanese legend put into writing in the early 1800s.
A group of fishermen noticed an unusual spacecraft landing in the distance in the water. The ship came to shore, a door opened, and they could see a lovely woman coming out of the spacecraft. And she started speaking to them in a language they had never heard before. And as soon as she got there, she got back into the craft and flew away, never to be heard of again.
So is the rock ship of Masuda a carving to commemorate this encounter? Some believe it looks like the hollow ship drawings. But most think it's a lot older, dating to Japan's Old Mound period between 250 and 500 AD. During that time, in the same area as the rock ship, the ancient Japanese built several giant keyhole-shaped formations. And here's where it gets weird. George Haas says similar formations are found in one other place, Mars. Look at them side by side. The photo on the right was taken by NASA.
This structure on Mars is completely symmetrical. It's a keyhole formation with a circular mound at the top and a triangular form at the bottom.
Is there a connection between this part of Japan and the Red Planet? Something that had cosmic visitors interested in both?
The Valley of Asuka, where the rock ship and these tombs are found, is considered the birthplace of Japanese civilization. Many cultural transformations, including the introduction of Buddhism, began there around 500 AD, but little is known about the era before that. So what can our experts dig up?
Archaeologist Dr. Ed Barnhart considers that the rock ship of Masuda could have anything to do with the legend of the hollow ship.
There's a whole myth around this magical woman. It was actually documented in 3 historic texts that talked about the same story.
Still, Barnhart agrees the formation is much older than the rock ship legend of the early 1800s. He joins other experts who place its creation to that period of ancient Japan when the keyhole formations were built. Barnhart adds that those strange keyholes on Mars are most certainly the result of natural forces like erosion, while the Japanese keyholes are man-made tombs.
This is a very religiously steeped area, and at a time period called the tumulus period, there were a number of stone-built and carved tombs in the area. So this may fall into that tradition.
Okay. Then since the rock ship of Masuda was found near these tumulus-era burial mounds, could it also be a tomb? Anthropologist Kathy Strain investigates.
What we do know is that this area was used a lot during the Great Burial Period. And so it's quite possible that this was the start of a burial and it ended up getting abandoned because it got a crack in it. So then it's not perfect anymore.
But Barnhart has another idea. It relates to the ancient practice of fermenting rice to make the brewed alcohol sake.
There's another stone in the area called the sake boat stone that has a variety of circular holes and canals that functionally could be used in the process of sake making, skimming the top of one, making it more pure in the other ones as the canal feeds the process through. This one is very different though. The holes are deep, there's only 2 of them. They don't actually align up very well to let one skim the other.
It's an interesting theory, but at this point that's all it is. There's no evidence for the tomb or the sake theory either in the written or archaeological records. All we have is the stone and our best guesses.
Our verdict, it is still unknown exactly who carved this mound and why. The legend of the hollow ship UFO also remains a nazo. That's Japanese for mystery. But there are enough independent accounts of it that we're not ruling out a close encounter of the Japanese kind.
Summer 2020 in the state of Tabasco in southern Mexico. Archaeologists are surveying the land from above armed with a new technology called LiDAR. It stands for Light Image Detection and Ranging. Laser beams are sent to the ground and bounce back, creating a digital map of areas hidden for centuries by thick, dense vegetation. The team is working in the remote jungles when their LiDAR detectors uncovered this. It's a series of images which appear to be a city containing rectangular plazas and platforms with distinct lines and edges.
So remember, this isn't a photo, it's a laser image of the jungle from above, enabling us to see what's covered by the canopy and underbrush. So take a look at these rectangles. Here, here, and then we've got a large one here. Some of them are nearly a half-mile long. And then take a look at these lines here. I'm just wondering, I could be wrong about this. Could they be roads?
Dr. Takashi Inomata led the team that made the discovery.
It was really great, particularly those perfect rectangular shaped site. That's something we were not expecting.
Writer Eric Grunhauser says some have speculated it's a famous, legendary lost city.
These structures and the mysteries surrounding them really harken back to some older legends of lost cities, of the idea of El Dorado.
El Dorado was a legendary city filled with gold that the Spanish conquistadors heard rumors about while exploring the New World in the 1500s. Many died in their unending quest to find it, including the English courtier Sir Walter Raleigh, who was beheaded for battling the Spaniards during the fruitless search. Yet another theory about this site is that it's evidence of the oldest civilization known to Mesoamerica.
These structures could possibly have been created by the Olmec civilization. There are only 2 other major sites where we know the Olmec to have lived.
The Olmec date between 1600 and 350 BC, hundreds of years before the more well-documented Inca, Mayan, and Aztec empires. It's still unclear how and why their civilization vanished.
We thought we already knew about many of those big sites. Some of them are almost kilometer long, and then they have perfect rectangular shape, which was surprising.
So, who really made this large site, and why? Based on the images and Olmec-style rock carvings found recently in Morelos, Mexico, some speculate this could have been used for religious rituals like human sacrifice. These and similar artworks suggest Olmec leaders ritually killed captives of war and other elites to gain the favor of the gods.
Although the fate of the Olmec is unknown, one thing is definitely clear. LiDAR is the future of archaeology. In fact, another recent LiDAR find uncovered this 1,500-year-old urban settlement in the Bolivian Amazon. More evidence that cultures we've always thought of as undeveloped were actually more sophisticated than we ever imagined. But are these ruins in Mexico the remains of the Olmec civilization or something else? Let's see what our experts can dig up.
Archaeologist Dr. Ed Barnhart says it's unlikely this could be the ancient lost city of El Dorado, as some have speculated, since the Mexican state of Tabasco, where it's located, is not known for gold deposits. But maybe instead it has something to do with the search for liquid gold.
Mexico's national oil company, Pemex, has been intensively working in there. So it's possible that some of those things that look ancient might be overgrown Pemex platforms.
But as he looks more closely, Barnhart recognizes the pattern of these structures as something familiar to archaeologists.
This entire thing was once a big platform with buildings and probably big sculptures as well. We're talking about huge areas upon which the Olmec put their cities.
Anthropologist Kathy Strain points to another important clue.
It looks like mounds that we already know about that are at the 2 other complexes that we know are associated with Olmec. The Mayans came along later and they occupied a different place in that jungle. And so we know this was exclusively Olmec because of where it's located.
So we think it's Olmec, but we still don't know exactly what we're looking at or what purpose it served.
It is possible that this could represent a burial ground, but burial mounds tend to be small. What this could be is a platform for religious purposes. You would have the ruler at one end and a parade going up the middle, spectators on the sides.
A rendering of what this platform may have looked like demonstrates that the Olmec were likely the first Mesoamerican civilization with the engineering know-how to build such monumental stone structures.
But we won't know that information until we see what it looks like physically.
Now, of course, it's long been suggested that various Mesoamerican sites like the Nazca Lines in Peru were designed to communicate with or even guide extraterrestrial visitors. Mainstream archaeologists usually dismiss these theories, but even they remain mystified about this latest find.
Honestly, we don't know what they are. We don't know why they built this and what they mean.
Our verdict? Olmec archaeological site. But what it's for and why the civilization collapsed is still unknown. We do know that the Olmec invented calendars, created the system of mathematics, and they even had toothpaste. But the exact extent of their sophistication remains a secret covered by the jungle.
It's February 2022 in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. The Museum of Osteology, also known as the Bones Museum, makes a post about one of its newest artifacts, and the photo of it has the comment section going wild. The image shows an elongated skull with a strange metal implant embedded inside it. The skull found in Peru appears to be human, but the odd stretched out shape of the bulbous cranial bones could suggest otherwise. The implant itself is coarse and bumpy and is clearly not an organic part of the skeleton. It appears to be composed of two parts, an eye-like shape on top and a circle at the bottom. Forensic anthropologist Dr. John Verano, who studies prehistoric skulls like this for a living, was stumped when he first saw this image.
I've never seen anything like this. I looked at it and I said, well, doesn't look genuine to me.
Though this implant is rare, perhaps unique, author Heidi Hollis says there's a long history of elongated skulls in Peru.
For us to be able to find elongated skulls, that's not the rare element here. Finding an elongated skull with a metal plate in it, now that takes the cake.
Peruvian archaeologist Julio Teo discovered hundreds of elongated cone-shaped skulls buried in the Paracas region in the late 1920s. And Hollis notes that their surprising appearance makes some wonder if they could have extraterrestrial origins.
In pop culture, we often do see aliens as being portrayed as having an elongated skull. From the popular Aliens movies to the gray aliens witnessed by people said to be abducted by alien beings.
Recent genetic testing of the Peruvian skulls apparently found they had mitochondrial DNA with mutations unknown to any human or animal on Earth. And the metal in the skull adds another bizarre dimension.
It's highly unusual to see such perfection done on something so ancient. How and who did this?
We often associate metallic objects with electronics, so maybe this skull implant is some sort of microchip, or in this case, macrochip, for aliens to communicate with their home planet.
We know people microchip their pets to help locate them when they go missing. In the case of dogs and cats, a device the size of a grain of rice is implanted just under the skin, over the shoulder blades. Could this cranial implant actually attract aliens? Does it reveal other ancient secrets? Or is this just one big hoax taking us all for a wild ride? Let's ask the experts.
We turn first to anthropologist Kathy Strain to disentangle fact from fiction.
There have been a lot of known hoaxes in archaeology, in particular with Peruvian skulls, crystal skulls that were found all over the world that were said to have been made by alien technology. Those were fakes. We know that they were cut by a jeweler's equipment, and so it's always possible that something can be hoaxed.
But Strain says there's reason to believe the skull is authentic.
We can see every element of what a human skull looks like. That is not easy to hoax, because bone is bone. We can also date this using radiocarbon, and so that would tell us for certain that it is 2,000 years old.
So since the skull seems to be real, could it actually belong to an ancient alien who visited Earth from another planet? Archaeologist Dr. Ed Barnhart says that though we associate elongated skulls with aliens, there's historical evidence that they are in fact human.
This shows what we call cranial deformation. And that means that probably when this individual was very young, boards were strapped to the skull so that it would elongate and change the shape of the skull. It was very prevalent in South America, where this skull is believed to have come from.
Barnhart says it was generally people of elite status from Andean cultures like the Paracas who underwent this practice. Yet we know some people who claim they've been abducted by aliens who say they had metal devices implanted into their bodies. So maybe these are actually alien implants into human abductees who've undergone skull elongation. Or is it possible these South Americans were able to also carry out other complex skull modifications like this?
We have found other skulls that have what we call trepidation and repairs to them. Trepidation is the practice of drilling or removing bone from a head that has undergone trauma. We know we still use this today. Roy from Siegfried and Roy, after he was attacked by the tiger, had to have this done because his brain swelled.
Strange says a recent amazing discovery in Peru in late 2021 may solve the riddle. These are obsidian surgical tools found in what's believed to be a doctor's grave. Strange says this proves ancient South Americans actually had the know-how to perform this dangerous procedure. Yet even though trepanation is a recognized ancient practice, John Verano still isn't convinced this implant is authentic since he's never seen metal like this from that time.
If this skull with its metal implant is genuine, and if it really reflects surgery and implant, of course it would be a significant historic discovery, but given that it doesn't look like anything I've ever seen in metallurgy in the Andes, that's why I have my doubts.
So while John leans toward this being a hoax, there's plenty of other evidence to suggest this is the 2,000-year-old skull of a human who survived a life-threatening surgery.
Our verdict? This skull is most likely an example of ancient trepanation. But until the skull is radiocarbon dated to confirm its age, concluding with absolute certainty that this artifact is authentic would be getting ahead of ourselves.
It's July 2014 in the Indian state of Chhattisgarh, where there are a number of caves and paintings made by hunter-gatherer populations going back as far as 10,000 years. Archaeologist J.R. Bagad claims he recently made a unique discovery here.
और ये शैल चित्र में जो है लगभग 10,000 वर्ष पुराने आदिम मानवों के द्वारा निर्मित में शैल चित्र है.
While giving a tour to reporters, Bagad shows a rock face on which there are half a dozen dark red and yellow painted beings standing together in a group.
In this particular painting, which looks quite strange, we have some individuals with larger heads, different colored arms and hands, and they don't look like the other people depicted on these cave walls. So we have a lot of people believing that the ancient humans who painted these drawings were actually painting images of aliens from another world.
The theory that these are depictions of extraterrestrials is bolstered by another painting of what appears to be a mechanical-looking disc painted on the cave ceiling.
It resembles a saucer-shaped object, which became kind of the pop cultural representation of UFOs in the 1950s and 60s.
These aren't the only ancient representations of allegedly extraterrestrial beings.
We also have a number of other ancient civilizations who have created similar things. For instance, we have the Wajina figures in a rock shelter in Australia. We also have petroglyphs in Capitol Reef State Park here in the United States.
Let's take another look at this disc-shaped object from India. These three lines, right here, again right here, and right here, have alternately been described as beams or legs of a tripod, and these apparent portholes, right here and right here, match with contemporary representations of alien spacecraft. So what can our experts unearth about this peculiar cave art?
First, anthropologist Kathy Strange says these ancient drawings must have marked a significant event or encounter.
They're not just doodles. Cave walls are very valuable. So for them to paint this, it must have been something important to them as a people. They're trying to represent something that they want to pass on to the next generation.
These bulbous-headed figures do indeed resemble the humanoid depictions of aliens that eventually dominated in the 20th century. So a connection seems possible. However, archaeologist Ed Barnhart believes they are documentation of a different kind of cosmic trip.
These ancient cultures relied upon people called shamans who would typically go into altered states of consciousness to receive information, and those were induced by hallucinogenic drugs or starvation or sleep deprivation. What they painted on the walls were their experiences they were having during their hallucinogenic trances. In those caves, they would feel like they're floating outside of their body, and they would show themselves elongated and the floor falling out below them.
It's not that the figures' heads were extra large, but that the bodies were stretched as they felt they were floating up. And as for the UFO-like object, that's also more likely something else from the heavens.
Instead of it being a beam from an alien ship, it actually is just sun rays, and they're projecting that the sun is at its full potential, probably noon, right above your head. There's other examples in the general area in India and other places in the world that show a very similar object.
Our verdict? These well-preserved Indian rock paintings are most likely the work of shamans from prehistoric hunter-gatherer societies who made them while in an altered state of consciousness. Even if these ancient artists weren't seeing aliens, they were definitely experiencing something truly out of this world.
1939, Dique Delta, Costa Rica.
The United Fruit Company was clearing an area of the Costa Rican jungle to start a banana plantation. And suddenly they discovered something truly mysterious.
At sites all across the area, workers uncover these. Stones that have been carved into near-perfect spheres of all sizes.
The largest one was 9 feet in diameter and 16 tons.
It would take an incredible amount of craftsmanship and masterful engineering to create, especially the large spheres.
Many of the stones are within 5% of being perfect spheres, a difficult task to execute precisely even when using calibrated machinery. This is a remarkable feat if carved from a larger rock by hand.
When the first Western people came to Costa Rica and saw these spheres, they had never seen anything like it.
Archaeologists believe they were carved by a tribe known as the Diques, which flourished from AD 700 to 1500. They produced at least 300 of these stones. But the Diques faded away hundreds of years ago, and how they made the stones disappeared with them. By the 1940s, local indigenous tribes believed the stones were of divine origin.
The native Costa Rican people believed that these spheres are actually from their god. Terra, who was the thunder god, used them with a blowpipe in defense of the native Costa Ricans.
They believed Terra shot the stones at the gods of wind and hurricanes to keep them at bay. Some have speculated that these battles between Terra and the other gods were actually a titanic shooting match between UFOs, with the stones some sort of spent weapon. They point to the sphere's near-perfect roundness as proof of alien creation. But if we assume humans made them, not gods, the question is why? In the 1930s and 40s, rumors spread they'd been made to store gold in the sphere's cores, so workers blew up several and found nothing. Another possibility is that the spheres serve a scientific purpose.
One theory that has been posited is that they are somehow a representation of our solar system, that they represent celestial bodies somehow.
They might have been placed to track the seasons or rolled around to reflect the shifting night sky. There's also a theory that an advanced civilization, even older than the Diques, built an entire complex of cities here.
It wouldn't be a surprise if we uncover other temples or other places out there that we just haven't found yet that may represent an older civilization that was there.
Here's a twist. The Costa Rican stone spheres aren't alone. In 2016, an archaeologist uncovered this massive sphere in Bosnia. Then also, there are these in New Zealand. Let's see if our experts can solve this mystery without blowing anything up.
We turn to archaeologist Ed Barnhart, who has seen the spheres himself.
Most of them in Costa Rica now have been rolled into parks or they're in front of government buildings. It's part of the difficulty interpreting of what they are is the fact that they've all been rolled out of context.
So if they once lined up with the stars, sun, and moon, we will never know. Why people made them may remain a mystery, but Barnhart thinks he knows how they were made.
When I visited this location, I stopped on the bridge and looked down on the river, and I could see circular stones just like this. They're called concretions.
A concretion is when minerals build up around a core like a pebble and then over years layer on concentrically, creating a round hard rock. Geologists think this is exactly how the spheres in Bosnia and others around the world likely formed. But Barnhart sees the hand of man in just how smooth and round the Costa Rican stones are.
They weren't always perfectly circular, so they chipped it here, they chipped it there, and made it more circular.
It took hundreds, even thousands of hours of scraping and polishing. Then they had to roll these rocks, some weighing 15 tons, to their sites. Barnhart takes this as a sign of a dynamic, thriving culture. But what happened to this culture remains a mystery.
Those archaeological sites were once living cities. They were abandoned. Hundreds of years of forest came up, grew all around them.
So, for the stone spheres, we're crediting natural forces and human industry, most likely by members of the Dikees culture. But why people carved and placed the stones is still unsolved.
It's 1999 near Nebra, Germany. Two German looters are ransacking the site of an archaeological excavation in Middelburg Hill when they come across a treasure trove of Bronze Age artifacts. They quickly sell the goods on the black market, and in 2002, a police raid on an art collection brings to light a truly unique item from the stash. Take a good look. This photo, taken after the loot was recovered, shows a 10-inch circular object about the size of a vinyl record. It's adorned with 32 golden circles, a larger circle, a crescent shape, and an arc on its circumference. A smaller arc on the left side has gone missing. There's a smaller rainbow-shaped golden arch upside down near the bottom. Science journalist Amy Teitel says this now famous object is known as the Nebra sky disk.
It's got a full circle and a crescent that looks like it's meant to be the sun and a crescent moon. And there's these two sides that could be marking seasons or could be marking a horizon. These smaller circles could potentially be stars.
Experts believe that it dates back to around 1800 BC. And if it does in fact show celestial symbols, it could be the oldest star map known to man.
Many wonder if this isn't showing an older civilization having settled earlier than expected. If you were to lay this disc down on an altar, the arcs on the side would line up to show you roughly the equinox, which could tell you when you need to plant crops. One hypothesis about this disc is that it comes from a very advanced race living in the Bronze Age. For some, that leads to the question of whether or not they were somehow involved in alien technology, because these people were doing things that were far more advanced than any other cultures.
Others speculate that this disc has a connection to another mysterious source, a little-known Scandinavian sun cult whose name has been lost to history. Followers of this esoteric Nordic religion were sun worshippers who portrayed solar symbols frequently in rock carvings and other art. So let's see if our experts can shed some light on what, if anything, their beliefs could have to do with this sky disk.
There's ample evidence that ancient humans had knowledge of astronomy, as seen in famous sites like Stonehenge, Machu Picchu, and Chichen Itza, so they probably didn't need extraterrestrial help. But anthropologist Kathy Strain wonders if this artifact is connected to cultures known for their astronomical observations. Could the Nebra sky disk actually be an accurate star map?
We have the seven sisters of the Pleiades right here, and it's an indicator that whenever the crescent moon was at this 3/4 and you could see the Pleiades, that you needed to add on to your calendar a leap month so that you could keep your agriculture correct.
But archaeologist Dr. Ed Barnhart isn't quite sure that's what we're seeing here.
One of the things that distinguish the Pleiades from some of the other stars is that they're less bright. If they were trying to depict a map of the sky, they would not make the Pleiades as bright and large as the other stars. Even just this sun and the moon here, it is physically impossible for this arrangement to be this close in a single view. It is not a map through which anyone could match it to the sky.
But since some claim this disk was able to keep track of the equinoxes, could it have been some sort of ancient calendar?
The smaller you try to make a circle like this to observe the sun, the more exact position you have to be in. Something this small a scale can't really function as an observatory.
Then is it possible this could simply be an elaborate piece of ancient artwork?
The fact that this is predominantly copper with bronze as kind of flare points towards it being an object of art. Copper is not good for making tools. If we look at all of the Bronze Age objects that we have, there are more pieces of art and jewelry than there are weapons and tools.
But given the object's sketchy origins, is there a chance this could just all be a hoax?
There are people who have claimed that the looters themselves created this as a hoax in order to get more money. However, the soil adhering to the back of it matched the exact location where the looters said they got it. And you cannot fake the patina that is on this bronze piece. We know it's very old based on that. So I personally don't believe that it is a hoax.
Our verdict, this is almost certainly an authentic ancient artifact depicting astronomical bodies. However, it is still up for debate whether it is the world's oldest star map or just a piece of decorative art.
In the Kimberley region of Western Australia, the Aboriginal people left intriguing paintings on cave walls. They are called the Wangina, incredible beings Aboriginals said created the world. Take a closer look. Do you see the round heads and circular eyes? According to George Haas, founder of the Cydonia Institute, the Wangina could be out-of-this-world evidence.
They have radiating feathers that come off the head. Some believe that when you first look at these, they scream alien. And the absence of mouths suggests that possibly these extraterrestrials were telepathic.
Wait a minute. Did he say aliens? It's an intriguing theory. What we do know is that Australian Aboriginal culture goes back 65,000 years and holds that humans were created by the Wangina. These unique paintings are a record of that period, which they call Dreamtime.
You don't see these type of images in other cave paintings done by Neanderthals and early man, which mostly deal with hunting and animals, deer, bison. But these paintings that we're seeing in Australia are totally unique.
In some tales, the Wangina are referred to as sky beings or spirits from the clouds who came down from the Milky Way and created the Earth and its people.
Some believe that these portraits of the Wangina certainly blur the line between extraterrestrial and spiritual world. They seem to have aspects of both.
When it comes to our origins, some speculate that ancient extraterrestrial visitors engineered the creation of modern humans through DNA manipulation or some other means. The paintings are intriguing. Look closely at the lines going across, creating sections on the body, here and here. Could this be the pattern of an ancient spacesuit? We asked our experts.
We begin with anthropologist Kathy Strain, who notes that if the paintings are an elaborate hoax, someone must have thought of it over a century ago.
They were documented by anthropologists more than 100 years ago. And outside the fact that you're adding some paint to keep the color alive, they haven't changed. These are not a hoax.
So if the pictures are real, are they of aliens? We ask archaeologist Ed Barnhart.
There are people who envision that it's helmets on their heads and suits on their bodies, but this is a very plodding-looking helmet. The kind of helmet that you see in 1950s aliens movies. It's kind of ridiculous to believe that an advanced civilization came here in suits that, in our current technology, are archaic.
And the idea that these designs on the bodies are spacesuits?
You're gonna see an image like this and envision suits on their bodies, but we do see today in Aboriginal ceremonies, people typically paint their bodies completely white, their faces, their hair, and then they'll put some kind of decoration over that. So I think that it is clearly connected to Aboriginal people who today paint their bodies in a very similar fashion.
In fact, Kathy Strain sees a clue in one image that convinces her these are strictly human bodies.
It is pretty rare to see genitalia of a male in rock art, and based on things that witnesses say that space aliens don't have genitalia, that's not how they reproduce, these look like human genitalia.
So what are we seeing?
The halo around the head, I don't believe that they intended it to be interpreted as anything other than it's the process of transforming, and that's your head kind of extending and above itself and continuing to carry out.
The halo has been used in many different cultures throughout history to represent spiritual transformation, including the Aboriginal Australians.
These images around the heads are some kind of symbol of the expansion of their minds and spirits.
So our verdict, these were likely humans. In fairness, you do have to ask, do the Aboriginal traditions of body decoration stem from a time when strange beings were observed? It's impossible to completely discount, but if these particular paintings were aliens, well, then let's just say they were endowed in a human way.
November 2020, the Red Rock Desert of southern Utah. A helicopter crew and state biologists are counting bighorn sheep when something catches their eye. They land and make this astounding discovery. A large, shiny silver object tucked into an almost inaccessible canyon.
It's just wild.
Look closer. From every angle, it's clear this thing does not belong here. Utah keeps its location secret, but news leaks out on social media, and it's quickly labeled the Utah monolith. U.S. Army vet David Serber takes all the secrecy as a challenge.
I'm like, okay, I'm gonna find this place, right? It was probably 11 p.m., and I drove for 6 hours straight through the night to try to get there.
David works his way deep into a canyon.
I don't see anyone.
Just after daybreak, he rounds a corner.
There she is.
And it's just there. And I was like, oh, God. And it was just a really cool experience to have a few minutes alone with it.
There are a few things more iconic than a monolith, whether we're talking about the monolith that started 2001: A Space Odyssey or the obelisks of ancient Egypt. So when this mysterious metal monument popped up, it really sparked people's imagination. The idea being that possibly one of the ways that aliens would contact us would be to leave an information-laden monolith for us to investigate and discover.
One focus on the internet was whether the monolith was constructed with alien building materials.
The belief was that they are comprised of something called a metamaterial or a metametal.
Metamaterials are engineered to have properties not found naturally on Earth. Special composites of metal strands and ceramics are created to absorb radar for stealth technology. And there are reports from reputed UFO crash sites that the craft contain alloys that give them anti-gravity and cloaking characteristics. Accounts of alien metamaterials went mainstream in 2017 with a New York Times article.
According to the New York Times report, Bigelow Aerospace was contracted by the government to store possible materials from alien craft.
It's believed that the U.S. government is studying these alien materials to create the next generation of weapons. Could the Utah monolith be made of the same sort of alien materials? David tests it.
I had a magnet with me, mainly because we were trying to figure out, what type of metal is it?
Not sticking.
And also, was it a solid object or was it hollow?
Not solid.
So what's it made of? And by whom?
Other mysterious monoliths have been discovered recently, often in remote locations, in Romania, the Isle of Wight, and Sweden. Are these objects some sort of alien calling card, or could they be the product of a very creative and very human mind?
And when you first see this, you can't help but think of some type of extraterrestrial technology. However, there's nothing about what we're seeing in this video that leads me to believe it's manufactured from any kind of exotic materials.
Unlike reports of UFO metamaterials, the monolith doesn't defy gravity, and it's definitely not cloaked. In person, David noticed fingerprint smudges and ragged corners as well as other signs of terrestrial construction.
The telltale signs of those rivets would make me believe this is man-made, no matter how kind of anomalous its appearance is.
For McMillan, that's the giveaway, the signs of ordinary earthbound metalwork. If it is human-made, Kathy Strain has an idea why someone went through all the effort to put it in the middle of nowhere.
I think it's a message of beauty, of artwork, maybe makes you reflect more that I wanted to come here for the wilderness.
Some artists, like Donald Judd, believe that wilderness is the ultimate art gallery and use isolated locations for installation sites. But who made this and what it's made from is almost impossible to determine from a video.
Ultimately, you're not going to be able to determine exactly what this object is until you get it into a lab and under in-depth analysis.
But just as it appeared out of nowhere, the Utah monolith vanished, literally overnight. So until it's found and we can get it into a lab, our verdict, this is not an alien artifact. It's either a human artwork or a hoax. Either way, it's a compelling conversation piece.